You might believe it, you might not believe it. Bitcoin up over 90% since November. And right now, still another 50+% to the upside, very much in play for Bitcoin. I want to talk about that in this video, and ADA. In the second half of this video, I want to break down ADA on the charts. There it is on the 6 hour. Here it is on the daily. ADA has been a very nice move. Some indicators showing that the targets that we have, the bullish targets to the upside, are very much in play, up for grabs for Cardano. Want to show you those indicators on Cardano. Let's start. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. Your support means a lot to me, and let's jump in. Before we even look at the Bitcoin chart on the daily and what continuation looks like right now, I want to just point something out. This is a recent article actually discussing right now, as I do this video, stock futures climb as Wall Street awaits more big bank earnings. It's this little piece of this article I wanted to read to you very quickly. Janet Yellen thinks banks could become more restrictive with lending, which could allow the Fed to stop hiking interest rates. We have to keep an eye on this. We have to keep an eye on all these little narratives that come out that will move markets potentially in a bullish direction, meaning Fed stopping the interest rate hikes, right? So that's one narrative we need to pay attention to as we dive into the Bitcoin Cardano charts. Now, the other piece of the narrative is kind of earnings this week. A ton of earnings coming out for Q1 2023. Even if they're negative and there's just negative earnings, right? It's not looking good for certain companies. This might turn into a bullish headline, a bullish narrative for markets because it's saying, hey, what the Fed is doing is working. So you can just see Tuesday alone, tax day, a bunch of earnings here, Bank of America and a bunch of banks. Netflix is on there. Going to be very interesting to watch how this plays out, especially from a headline perspective, a sentiment perspective. Oftentimes, and we're going to pivot to Bitcoin charts now, we've been saying, and we've been tracking this, the year before the recession is usually when the markets perform worse because of things like this that we're talking about now, right? The earnings are starting to come out in the 2023 recession, but the markets, look, they've been up, right? And so a lot of it has to do with, and I think ties around the narratives and how the headlines are absorbed by markets, because at this point, after a very long bear market, I don't know if you can hear that thunder in the background, but after a very long bear market, the headlines start being just digested differently for markets. So let's dig into the Bitcoin charts. We started the video talking about right here, the 58% to the upside, just about 58%. And that's very much based off of a macro high or low. We saw the similar move in the last bear market bear to bull market. And you can just see coming out of that bear market, Bitcoin just hitting this lower high Fibonacci. And this is the same type of move playing out and in play for Bitcoin. But we start digging into the daily chart and we start looking at the current daily and we zoom in and we're like, the biggest thing that I notice besides the structure, right, that we do have on this chart, and this is a 6 hour, we have this higher high, higher low type of channel that we're watching, $40,000 target. But really besides that, there's not a lot of structure. We go to the daily chart and it's just this uptrend for Bitcoin, right? We have the moving averages. You see the 20-day moving average, the 50-day moving average, the 200 down here, kind of acting as a guide, kind of acting as this gravity to Bitcoin so we can track support and just see, is the higher high, higher low progression in play? And this is where we start digging into the 2019 data and we start really getting a sense of the similarities and then why the $40,000 target for Bitcoin is just very much just in play, because if the narratives become bullish, if markets are moving bullish, and there's no guarantee they will be, but if they do this week, coming month, this chart in 2019 will continue, in my view, in my opinion, to be mimicked and reflected on the current Bitcoin chart. But what I wanted to point out on this daily chart is, and this is the biggest thing I'm tracking in terms of Bitcoin, you can just see higher highs, higher lows pulling into the 20-day moving average. Higher highs, higher lows pulling into the 20-day moving average and the 50-day. It's this space between the 20 and the 50-day that I think we should be very vigilant of right now. And that really has been the case so far for Bitcoin, except for this move to the 200-day, which is another area to watch for. But Bitcoin has been kind of just pulling into this area on these charts time and time again. So when we start digging into these charts, we start seeing the similarities between now and 2019. And look at the lack of structure on the 2019 charts. It's just Bitcoin kind of making a move up, pulling into the moving averages, making a move up, into the moving averages, making a move up. It's stepping stones for Bitcoin. And this is extremely similar to the chart that we're seeing right now. making it move up, pulling over, making move up, pulling over, making move up. So the question is this move going to come pull back into the 20-day? Is it going to be sideways for a while, or are we going to have that next leg up? What does downside look like for Bitcoin? As far as I'm concerned, the biggest downside that I'm watching for Bitcoin is the $27,000 to $28,000 region for Bitcoin. It's a throwback area to this trend line. So if we are to have kind of a red week, if markets don't go bullish, if the headlines aren't being absorbed very well by markets, then this fall for Bitcoin to the $27,000 to $28,000 region is the area I'm watching for Bitcoin. And you can see the 20-day moving average, that's right around 28,800 right here. And the 50-day moving average right around 26,200. So if Bitcoin over the coming days is going to start falling, we can start seeing the 50-day pull up into Bitcoin a little bit. And maybe once again, Bitcoin's going to be consolidating between these two moving averages. And that's a move that we saw in the middle of this entire bull run back here in 2019. Just the throwbacks in between these moving averages. That's what I'm watching on this Bitcoin chart right now, throwback areas. Other than that, when it comes to bullish momentum and continuation to the upside, I'm not really looking at any really short-term targets. I have my target on the long term, more midterm, I guess we can call it, $40,000 out of the rising channel. But on the short term, when I go to the daily chart, I'm just letting Bitcoin kind of just make its move into price discovery and just figure out on its own what it's going to be doing, right? So most recently, we had this consolidation for Bitcoin on the shorter term that we did track a target to 32,000. It hit 31, and now we're just resetting with new structure. But for me on this 6-hour chart, I'm not very interested in this structure right here. It's so small. If it leads into kind of more, just a larger bit of structure, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, and we start having a larger pattern here, we'll start tracking it. But for right now, on the daily, I'm just looking for price discovery to the upside or to the downside, support between the 20-day and the 50-day moving averages. And so that's what I'll be watching for Bitcoin. Pivoting it to Cardano. It's 48 minutes still left, but this is what we were talking about for Cardano during the week. The 50-week moving average, right around 42 cents. Is ADA going to close above the 50-week moving average in blue? So far, hopefully I don't end up being wrong when I post this video, but 48 minutes and ADA will have closed above the 50-week moving average. This is a move that has not happened, at least in a bullish environment, like just breaking above. And we talked about this back here in 2020. It's been a while. Otherwise, we know the most recent story with the 50-week moving average. It's ADA falling below it and starting the bear market. Can you see how the seasons are shifting? Can you see how we're entering a new era? That's not a guarantee, but this is how I interpret the charts, and this is what I think, everybody. We're entering a new era. It's starting now. And it doesn't come without downside. We know that, but this is what's happening. I want to dig into the charts and just kind of show you something on the daily and the 6-hour that's really kind of intriguing to me right now from a data perspective. So we have this rising channel that ADA is in. We've been tracking it. Target to the upside, 55. Target to the downside, around 33, 34. When I zoom out, I'm noticing it's a very similar setup to this move that we had back here. Higher highs, higher lows. It's nice when the move is happening, right? It's nice when the move is happening, but ultimately what did ADA do? It fell very hard, kind of popped back up, but failed at that trend line and then fell even more. First thing I do want to note, or I just want to just point out to you, if you look at this 6-hour chart or you look at the daily chart, even if that happened and Cardano falls, this entire move right here, from the macro perspective, I can't stress this enough, this is so important. And it really is something that we've waited for a very long time. This is a higher high, and it's pivotal in terms of the macro. I just want to say that. So yes, ADA fell here, but if it did fall here, it's not the same, right? I just want to point that out. Now let's go to the charts and just kind of, I want to show you what I found on this chart and compare these two setups and talk about why there is a very strong likelihood or possibility that ADA makes that move to the upside. It's this. If we look at this, ADA on the momentum oscillator, look at where it is on this 6-hour momentum oscillator. We're looking at overbought after all of this rising channel. It's finally in overbought. What I want to point out, if you look at this channel back here, look where it's entering overbought. it's hitting overbought at the beginning of the channel, not the end of the channel. So it's hitting overbought, and then we're getting all this bearish divergence throughout the rising channel. The setup of bearish divergence back then, very different to what we have going on right now. This entire channel, there has not been really much bearish divergence at all. The bearish divergence could be starting now, meaning the momentum oscillator might finally start getting lower highs, but the price going up, that would be bearish divergence. But that could be starting now. And that could be the setup for ADA to hit the 55-cent target. And that could be the setup for ADA to hit not just the 55-cent target, but to continue this story on the longer term targets. Remember, 70 cents is what we've been tracking for quite a long time. We have this falling wedge that ADA broke out of all the way back here in January. It's been just kind of consolidation, a lot of volatility, but ADA continuing its journey to that target. This could be what's setting it up. The other thing is this. We have the inverse head and shoulders that we've also been tracking, 70-cent target. Now, if we look at this and we open up the momentum oscillators on the daily chart, check this out. If we look at what was happening for ADA, and if I just want to point this out, right here is that channel we just looked at on the 6-hour, and here's the shorter, here's the channel now that we're kind of within. But look at the difference. In that channel, we're getting lower highs on momentum oscillator. In this channel, we're getting higher highs. So the momentum on the daily chart, even looking way more bullish, way different than the channel back here, suggesting a breakout could be in play for ADA. And there's downside targets. We know that. We just looked at a 34-cent downside target. If it fails and just falls to the target to the downside, it's in play. It's something I anticipate. I'm ready for if it happens, but I like to identify the room for bullish momentum as well, because we are in, I think, a macro shift, getting ready for bull market. Not saying we're in the bull market. And so I just wanted to point that interesting dynamic between these two channels and show you the differences, because I think that might be telling for what might be in store. And I can't say this enough. It really kind of depends also how markets, including crypto, react to whatever headlines are thrown at us this week. So we'll be watching that as well. But everybody, either way, I appreciate you cruising through. I hope you have an amazing start to your week and an amazing week ahead. Please hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.